Hey everybody, I'm Delicia and thanks for tuning in to my weekly top 5 cigar picks. These of course are the cigars coming out of my humidor and hopefully making their way into yours for your week of smoking. So I just lit up my number 5 cigar. It's this beautiful, want to make sure it gets going really good. This beautiful Ashton Symmetry, very nice band. That's the first thing that will probably catch your attention aside from this lovely torpedo shape. The band itself is ornate, so it has a lot of presence to the band itself. Gold, it looks like, it's kind of reminiscent to like a stained glass window type of thing, but with gold around it. It kind of looks like that. Very nice. So this is actually a different cigar. I would say that this is a really good stick for a newer smoker. It's not very strong. In fact, it's very mild, which not for everybody. However, the milder sticks are something that I actually get a lot of questions about, more on the lines of, what should I recommend for somebody that's new to smoking, or like I have my wife or my girlfriend or a friend that doesn't smoke cigars that I'd like them to start smoking or try to smoke. So this would be a nice one to introduce them to, if nothing else, because it's going to catch their attention with, again, that beautiful band, and it looks like a conversation piece. It does have some nice flavors to offer. They're subtle. It's nothing that's crazy complex, which again makes it a good beginner type of smoke. It's a very light cedar, very subtle on the spice, light black pepper. As far as the blend itself, I forgot to mention that it is actually an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, and I forgot to find out the filler and the binder, and I do apologize. That's pretty bad on my part, but I will address that in another video. Sorry guys. I do write notes to try to, I don't know every cigar blend off the top of my head. So I tend to remember the ones that I smoke more often, obviously. However, the ones that I don't smoke as frequent, I don't know their blend offhand. So again, Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, and it's a lighter stick. So moving on to number 4. So we have the Punch Gran Boodle. So Boodle means, to anyone who's not sure, and you see that term thrown around there in the cigar world quite a bit, a Boodle refers to the fact that it's like all the tobacco used in the cigar is from one region, one country. In this case, this is the original, this is the Punch Gran Boodle that's using all Honduran tobacco. So it's actually using tobacco grown in the San Agustin region of Honduras. And I think they were actually, Punch, if I'm not mistaken, they were one of the front runners to do the whole Honduran Boodle. Again, from what I remember. So they have a fun history though, a very long history. In fact, they are a very old brand. And I've had the pleasure of hanging out with Mr. Punch, the little bobblehead guy. He's actually in my calendar this year. So if you have not ordered your Cigar Vixen calendar, be sure to do so. You can jump on to cigarvixen.com, or you can even find it on my coffee website, tasascoffeebydelicia.com. And you can find out which month you'll find Mr. Punch hanging out with me. He was quite the gentleman, I must say. So the Punch Gran Boodle, as I mentioned, it's a Honduran Boodle. It's kind of a sweet and spicy, so you have a little bit of the black pepper, and then you have this little bit slightly sweet undertones throughout. But again, it's kind of a classic. It's a nice staple to have in your humidor, one to pull out every so often and enjoy, hence this week of smoking. And you'll also pick up some subtle earthy notes to it. Moving on to number 3. This one I love. This is a cigar that is definitely box worthy. It's not an expensive cigar, but it should be one that is smoked fairly often, especially if you're a Maduro person. This is the AJ New World, and this is the first one that was brought out, and it's the Oscuro. So it's using a darker Nicaraguan wrapper. It's also a Boodle, so it's an all Nicaraguan tobacco in this particular stick, all grown by AJ, which of course we all know. He's just kind of dabbling in a lot of different projects, a lot of different cigars, but he also grows tobacco. I've had the pleasure of visiting his farms a couple times, his factory a few times as well, and it's all of it is, you know, very impressive. He's a really cool guy, somebody that is I consider a friend, because he actually makes, every so often when I do see him and I remind him, he will actually get me the New Worlds rolled in a Lancero. So I'm spoiled and I love them. However, this one you can find in pretty much any brick and mortar. There are some different variations now that have come out in the New World lineup. And this one's still my favorite. This is again, the original. It's the Nicaraguan Boodle, darker wrapper on it, and just lots of flavor. It's earthy. You pick up cocoa notes. You get some of that spiciness in the background. It's just a really nice aged leather you pick up as well. I did have somebody comment that was asking, like, what the heck, you know, how do you get all these different notes? Isn't it just tobacco leaf? And the simple answer is yes, it is just tobacco leaf. However, I did answer the question on YouTube, but I thought it was a good question, because I'm sure that that's on the minds of many, especially when you flip through and you watch different cigar reviews and you get people with some very elaborate notes and things that they're describing these cigars tasting like. And unless it's an infused cigar, you have to remember that yes, it's just plain tobacco. However, it's similar. I compare it to wine or pretty much anything that is like a soil-based type of, I don't want to say product, but art form, I guess you could say. And the regions that more specifically the tobacco, the regions that the tobacco is grown in will greatly influence, I have something in my eye, will greatly influence the different flavors that come out in the cigar, as well as the way that they're blended. So it's like a recipe when you're cooking. You know, you can have these separate ingredients, but then when you combine them to create something, you're going to pick up different flavors, you know, within that, which is really something special, which is kind of what gives these master blenders an edge on each other, I guess you could say, because you have basically like a chef in the kitchen that's coming together with something really spectacular in most cases that they bring forth. So yes, the simple answer is it is just tobacco, but the longer answer, which I kind of gave already, is that you do pick up those different nuances based on the types, mostly the types of soil. And then again, you get into the whole process of like how it was aged, how long it was fermented, and then how it's blended. So that all can influence these different flavors that I'll mention, like leather, earthy, you know, spicy. Those are very quick, you know, in the top 5, I don't get into too much detail. It's just a quick kind of a general flavor profile. I try to do a little bit more of a breakdown on the actual reviews to give you a little bit more of flavors and things like that. But again, that's kind of the fun part of smoking, you know, different cigars, is to try to find those for yourself. Moving on, we have the Nestor Miranda Special Selection, a beautiful stick offered by Miami Cigar and Company. They also distribute La Aurora and Toscano cigars. And Nestor Miranda, one of those people in the industry that if you have a chance to meet him, it's very memorable. He's quite the character. He's an amazing guy, and he has a wonderful palate and a lot of really cool stories of many things. So the Nestor Miranda Special Selection is featuring a Nicaraguan Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan Criollo 98 on the binder, and the Nicaraguan filler coming from Condega, Jalapa, and Esteli. So you get the rich tobacco, you get the white pepper, kind of a roasted cashew nut in the background. Really nice flavor profile on that one. And also a Nicaraguan Boodle. I just had a little bit more of a breakdown as to which particular regions. Sometimes people disclose that information, which again, I kind of addressed this on another video. Whenever you see words like Jalapa or Esteli or Condega or Ometepe or, you know, San Agustin or whatever, I mean, those are referring to not just the country of origin, but the specific valley or the region or the part that the tobacco is grown in. So that's all that means. But really, most people just tell you the quick, what country, you know, if that they disclose. So they might say you know, the wrappers from Nicaragua, the binders from, you know, Honduras, and then the filler is a mixture of Peruvian, Nicaraguan, and Dominican. Basically, that's all that's getting, whereas you have some, like the ones I just mentioned, that get a little bit more specific as to which region, which is kind of cool, because then if you're a super tobacco nerd like myself, you can start to identify the tobacco based on those regions, and you start to kind of get a feel for, oh, I know tobacco from Esteli is going to have some oomph to it, some more pepper, and I know that, like, you know, Jalapa is going to bring out a little bit of a sweeter, you know, background. And again, when it's blended and you start to play around with those flavors, they kind of play with each other as far as you know, taste and overall end result, which is why I also enjoy cigars that have been aged for a little while. And I'm not talking about super age, you know, 5, 10, 15 years. I'm talking about even just a couple years versus, I know it's a thing like when you go to events and parties sometimes where they have a roller there, you know, adding the wrapper basically to a cigar. And I'm not a huge fan of smoking those cigars. It's cool to watch. Don't get me wrong. It's a fun activity to see. It's really informative to watch somebody go through that whole process. And as far as smoking it though, not a huge fan of it. To me, they always need time to sit down and settle and kind of let those flavors all marry together nicely. So that's kind of my little 2 cents on that. But rambling on, as I tend to do, moving on to number 1 this week. We have the Sir Robert Peel. I have had this one in the lineup before. It's been a little while. I recently revisited these cigars. I do have a couple boxes in my humidor. They do have a natural and a Maduro version. I tend to lean towards the Maduro in most cases. This one is really nice. It's a box pressed baby. It comes for now in the 1 single vitola, and it's a really lovely offering from Protocol Cigars. The Sir Robert Peel is featuring a Pennsylvania broadleaf wrapper, Nicaraguan binder and filler. You pick up the dark chocolate, the black peppers, you get the cedar, vanilla, a little bit of earth in the background. At times you start to get a little bit of a brown sugar, so it's really, really nice and definitely a flavorful stick, one that you should certainly pick up to enjoy. So that's it for the week. And as always, I love to hear your feedback, you know, which cigars you guys are smoking. I do appreciate those of you who tune in every Sunday and hang out with me for a little bit and kind of have, you know, I feel like we have a little friendship going on with our Sunday. But I do, of course, I wish you a very happy rest of your week and love all the comments and the feedback. So please continue to post them. Don't forget to tag me on anything you post on social media, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. And thanks for watching. Cheers.